Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Robert Princenthal with RadNet. And you have a new little thing there. It says RadNet Prostate. I love that.
Well, thank you. RadNet is very proud of its prostate program. We've worked hard for many years to arrive at where we think we need to be.
Exactly. And as I mentioned off camera, we had Paul Calacchio here, who you were, he was a patient of yours, and yet he also works with RadNet, and he told us his story. And, some things kind of go hand in hand. Men, man, they never want to go to the doctor, but, evidently when they don't, there could be a lot of issues with that with anybody who doesn't go to the doctor. So we hopefully have as much information for them as possible to make sure that they do go to the doctor. Now, you already mentioned that RadNet is, you've done a lot of work with the prostate division. Tell me why it's been so successful.
Well, I think for several reasons. One is our experience. We've started our program in 2009, so we were one of the earliest adapters of prostate imaging in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
The other is our wide footprint. We have over 20 sites scattered from Victorville to Temecula and from Palm Springs to Santa Monica. So there is really no reason why a man can't avail themselves of coming for prostate screening.
Right.
And then we're also less expensive than many of the academic university centers, and we participate with all the insurance plans. As a result, we now perform and interpret more prostate MRs a month than any group in the country. And in analyzing our outcome data, our results speak for themselves.
Right. And, we've talked to a number of your radiologists over the course of how long you've been with us. And, it's remarkable how far you've come along. In fact, the last time that we spoke, it was with people who talked about artificial intelligence. Are you now incorporating that into your prostate films?
Great question. That's right now an area of strong interest with RadNet and the company. We're working with several experts in developing artificial intelligence, and it's really designed to help us in two key areas. One is for image optimization, so that we can do a shorter scan time and yet have first quality image detail. Without a good, accurate image, we can't make the subtle diagnoses of early prostate cancer.
Right.
And then two, we're working with AI to help the radiologists become more advanced to make sure that we're consistent and not over or under calling the images, so that we refer men to biopsy only when absolutely necessary. So this is right now a work in progress, but with AI, we're hoping that we can develop what we call the manogram, which is a non-contrast, no IB, limited prostate MR consisting of what we call anatomic imaging and functional imaging with diffusion, supplemented by AI to maintain the same level of accuracy as a full prostate MR study.
Oh, well, I'm glad you told me what manogram was, because that was one of the questions I was supposed to ask you. So I love it. Good segue right into that. That's really a great explanation of that. Now, if somebody does, go to their regular doctor and then there's some sort of concern, what are their next steps? They would have their prostate exam, and then what would happen after that?
Well, we feel strongly that men need to have a physical exam performed by their doctor and get a PSA blood test. And we recommend that men should start getting screened at the age of 50, younger if they have strong family risk factors. But prostate cancer and breast cancer are really two sides of the same coin. It's the exact same number of men and women diagnosed with their diseases each year, around 230,000 men and women.
Wow.
And roughly 30,000 men and women, unfortunately, die respectfully of breast and prostate cancer. So we've done a great job with women of advancing early detection and saving lives with mammography, but we've not been able to do the same thing until now for men. So that's why we call it the manogram. We want men to fight like women and to get used to screening. And with the PSA as the triage test, then they can go and get an MR. And MR has a very strong negative predictive value. In other words, if the MR doesn't show anything suspicious, there's over a 90% likelihood that the gland does not harbor any clinically significant cancer. And alternatively, if we see a suspicious finding, we can find cancer in 85% of those men. So we can really triage men who need a biopsy and prevent men from getting unnecessary harm.
So is it that that prostate cancer is on the rise, or it has more people now because of detection, or because it just happens to be something that's happening to men?
I think the incidence has been relatively stable. The current guidelines and data suggest that 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed sometime with prostate cancer in their lifetime, which is exactly the same incident rate for women with breast cancer. We had a problem when the government tried to say that PSA screening wasn't useful. So in the early 2000s, we stopped PSA screening, and what we found 3 to 5 years later, that more men presented with advanced prostate cancer than before, and it was simply due to the lack of appropriate screening. So by doing PSA now in prostate MR, we can try to find prostate cancer when it's small and early, and then we can optimize the different treatment pathways specific for that patient.
Wonderful. And then, of course, we've discussed in the past the various options that a man would be able to have in order to remove the cancer. Just give me a brief overview of what their choices would be if they were diagnosed.
Well, certainly. Unlike breast cancer, if a man is diagnosed with low-grade prostate cancer, and we define that using something called the Gleason score, that describes the aggressiveness of the tumor. So the lowest grade is a Gleason score 6. If it's small volume and Gleason score 6 or grade group 1, we treat those with just watchful waiting or active surveillance, which is a little different than women with early stage breast cancer. Then as men's tumor aggressiveness increases on the scale from 6 to 10, then they can have different treatment options. And that would include surgery with robotic prostatectomy. That would include radiation therapy with or without hormone modification. And now we're able to offer focal therapy for select men with what we're doing at RadNet, a program called Tulsa Pro, which involves heating the gland with high intensity ultrasound beams while monitoring that heat with real-time MR guidance. And the patients are asleep under anesthesia. So it's an outpatient, incision-free, same-day treatment with excellent outcomes for oncological control.
Oh, it's excellent. I know we've talked about that before, and you guys are really making some wonderful headway with that. Well, I understand that September is Men's Health, so prostate is right up there with Men's Health. So in closing, what are some things you'd like to tell men to do during the month of September?
Well, we want them to learn how to fight like women, that they need to empower themselves and to take charge and to request PSA screening. They shouldn't be afraid of the treatment. We've really improved the diagnosis and treatment with individualized precision guidelines, and we can frequently avoid the dreaded side effects that most men are concerned about. So there's really no reason that someone should die of prostate cancer if they avail themselves of the screening guidelines. So ask your doctor or get more information by going to prostate.radnet.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you as always. I appreciate the information.
Thank you for letting us get this important news out to men.
You got it. And we'll be right back after this.